One thing I've learned from covering this series is that Hollywood meltdowns, much like people, come in all shapes and sizes. On one end of the spectrum, you have the spectacular implosions of figures like Joss Whedon and Brie Larson, stars who rose to dizzying heights only to fall in equally dramatic fashion. On the other, there are the Rachel Ziglers of the world, whose egos outpace their actual talent, sabotaging their own careers before they ever properly take off. But there's another kind of downfall, dear viewer. A slower, more insidious kind of crash and burn. The sort where you can see the cracks forming long before the whole thing finally derails. And that brings us neatly to the story of Dwayne Douglas Johnson, better known as The Rock. Once upon a time, he wasn't just the biggest movie star in Hollywood. He was one of the most recognizable and marketable celebrities on the planet. A man who dominated the box office with the same intensity he once brought to the wrestling ring. Charismatic, seemingly beloved by everyone, and always larger than life. But behind the smiles and motivational catchphrases was a darker story. One of ego, greed, manipulation, and a relentless hunger for success that would eventually consume him. Dwayne Johnson was born in California in 1972, the son of wrestling legend Rocky Johnson. Wrestling ran deep in the family. His uncle, grandfather, and even grandmother were all involved in the business. But young Dwayne initially had other ideas. Built like a tank at just 18 years old, he set his sights on a career in football. He was talented, sure, but never quite good enough to break into the big leagues, and after 4 years he was cut loose. With no qualifications and limited options, he pivoted back to his family's trade, professional wrestling. Using family connections, he fast-tracked into the WWE in 1996 under the name Rocky Maivia. On paper, it seemed like the perfect fit. He had the pedigree, the athleticism, and the squeaky clean babyface persona. But fans hated it. They saw through the manufactured good guy image and booed him out of arenas. The harder WWE tried to push him, the more the audience rejected him. An early knee injury almost ended his career before it began. When he returned, though, he was a completely different man. Reinventing himself as The Rock, he leaned into arrogance, swagger, and trash talk, referring to himself in the third person, roasting opponents, and exuding effortless confidence. It was a masterstroke. The same fans who once despised him now couldn't get enough, and within months, he was one of the most popular stars of WWE's Attitude Era. More importantly, he showed a knack for reinventing himself to match what people wanted, something worth remembering as his story unfolds. Success in wrestling was only the beginning. Like Hulk Hogan before him, Dwayne had his sights set on Hollywood. After a breakout role in The Mummy Returns, 2001, he landed his first lead in The Scorpion King, 2002, which grossed $180 million worldwide, a strong debut for a newcomer. But the momentum didn't last. The next several years were a mixed bag. Action flicks, comedies, family movies, thrillers. Some flopped, others barely broke even. Just as in his early wrestling days, he struggled to find the right identity on screen. Was he a hardened action star, a family-friendly comedian, or something else entirely? The answer arrived in 2011 with his role as Luke Hobbs in Fast 5. The franchise itself was reinventing its identity at the time, and Johnson's tough yet charismatic antihero was the missing ingredient. Fans loved him. Hollywood producers, desperate for the next Schwarzenegger, saw their man. Big, muscly, charismatic, marketable, Dwayne Johnson could be everything to everyone. He appealed to adults as an action star and to kids as a wholesome, family-friendly personality. He was box office gold, seemingly tailor-made for the blockbuster era. And soon he was everywhere. Movies, commercials, wrestling cameos, brand endorsements. Always in a suit, flashing that million-dollar smile, ready with a soundbite or motivational slogan. He became less of a person and more of a brand, a Disney-fied version of a movie star, carefully engineered for mass appeal. But cracks began to show. Behind the scenes of Fast and Furious, rumors spread of clashes with co-stars. Johnson allegedly demanded more lines, more screen time, and even had a clause in his contract ensuring his characters could never lose a fight. His feud with Vin Diesel spilled into the public, where he accused Diesel of being lazy, entitled, and impossible to work with. All of this stood in sharp contrast to his carefully polished public image as the friendly, easygoing superstar. When Dwayne started catching heat for that post, he deleted it almost immediately. Keep that in mind, because backing down the moment something threatens his image would become a recurring theme in the years ahead. The rumors of him being difficult on set really caught fire during the filming of Red One. Word is he would routinely show up late to filming, not by half an hour, not even an hour, but sometimes 7 or 8 hours late. That's basically an entire workday for most people, and it threw the production into chaos. The constant delays reportedly pushed the schedule back by weeks and added around $50 million to the film's budget. And then came the strangest story of all, the infamous piss bottles. Instead of taking a bathroom break like a normal human being, Dwayne allegedly urinated into plastic bottles on set and then handed them to crew members to dispose of. Imagine being new to the film industry, expecting to be part of Hollywood magic, only to find yourself hauling away The Rock's piss bottles. But that was just the start of his problems. Audiences began to notice something about all those big-budget action flicks he kept cranking out. He was basically playing the same character every single time. Same mannerisms, same character arc, often even the same wardrobe. His films became the cinematic equivalent of a McDonald's Happy Meal, mass-produced, widely consumed, but utterly forgettable. What had once felt charming and marketable was now repetitive and stale. And then there were the lies. Johnson developed a habit of embellishing or flat-out inventing things for no apparent reason. From contradicting himself about how many calories he eats in a day, to claiming he was visiting In-N-Out Burger for the first time on 3 separate occasions. Who even cares? Why lie about burgers? His physique raised eyebrows, too. Even as he approached 50, he seemed to be getting bigger and more muscular with each passing year. Fans weren't buying it anymore, and allegations of steroid use swirled constantly. The more he brushed them off, the louder they became. See, in the old days, Johnson's ability to reinvent himself and tell people exactly what they wanted to hear worked beautifully. But in the age of social media and instant fact-checking, that strategy was starting to backfire. More and more, he came across as someone without genuine opinions of his own, just a brand echoing back whatever would play best. The low point might have been his 2023 appearance on Joe Rogan's podcast. Instead of an open, candid discussion, it turned into 3 hours of evasive answers, vague platitudes, and awkward deflections. It felt like Johnson was the one conducting the interview, carefully steering around anything real. It only reinforced the idea that nothing about the guy was authentic. He was less a person than a corporation in human form. His wrestling career wasn't faring much better. For years, he had kept one foot in the WWE, dipping back in whenever his Hollywood career needed a boost. The formula was simple: make a splashy return, rake in the money, and then leave again. But in 2024, the strategy finally backfired. When Johnson muscled his way into the ongoing feud between Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns, the backlash was immediate and overwhelming. Fans revolted so hard that WWE was forced to rewrite its plans and give the spotlight back to Rhodes. Later, Johnson tried to spin the whole mess as part of a master plan to elevate Cody, but nobody was buying it. The Rock wasn't the hero here. He was the aging star clinging to relevance at the expense of the next generation. And then came the biggest disaster of them all, Black Adam, 2022. Johnson had hyped it up for years, promising it would reinvent the DC extended universe with him at the center. He wanted to be the franchise's savior, its new cornerstone. Instead, the movie bombed spectacularly. Far from launching a new era, it sank the entire DCU, losing hundreds of millions and burying his superhero ambitions overnight. Still, Johnson insisted the film was a success if you looked at it the right way. Sure, Dwayne. By that definition, every flop in Hollywood history is a hit. Which brings us to 2025. Dwayne Johnson has gone from the undisputed king of the box office to a star in decline, a living cautionary tale. He's proof that too much of a good thing eventually curdles into something stale. By trying to be everything to everyone, he ended up pleasing no one. To be clear, I don't think Johnson is a bad guy. He's done plenty of good, both in and out of the spotlight. But somewhere along the line, he got lost in his own myth. The Rock became bigger than Dwayne Johnson, and the man himself disappeared inside the persona. What was once authenticity turned into stage-managed branding, and what was once charisma turned into noise. So what now? Well, his upcoming film The Smashing Machine suggests he might finally be ready to pivot, away from generic blockbusters and toward more challenging, grounded roles that push him outside his comfort zone. And hey, audiences do love a redemption arc. He hasn't burned every bridge just yet. Maybe, just maybe, it's time for him to stop being The Rock and start being Dwayne Johnson. And that's the lesson here. All the fame, money, and success in the world mean nothing without authenticity. Anyway, that's all for today's episode of Crash and Burn. Go away now.